2023, an unforgettable year filled with many exciting adventures and daring endeavors. For Big Banana Productions, 2023 was certainly our most ambitious year thus far, as we traveled thousands of miles across America, all to capture the unmistakable sights and sounds of steam locomotives charging past our cameras. From the dense forests and river valleys of the East, to the endless flatlands of the Midwest, and to the towering peaks and rugged canyons of the Mountain West. Along the way, we created lasting scenes filled with rich history and stunning natural beauty, and made timeless memories with plenty of friends both old and new. This year, we captured 20 different steam locomotives in 9 states, along with a plethora of vintage diesels, self-propelled motors, and even some electric power. From a pair of Shays trundling through the wild backcountry of West Virginia, to center cab diesels making their last stand in upstate New York. From massive mainline steamers speeding through Pennsylvania Anthracite Country and the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, to scores of Narrow Gauge Mikados in the Aughwick Valley of Pennsylvania and the Rocky Mountains of Colorado and New Mexico. We've got a lot of ground to cover and a long list of highlights to share from this year's travels. So sit back and enjoy the journey as Big Banana Productions proudly presents the best of 2023. Our 2023 adventures began at the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad for a special photo freight with their mighty 2662 Mallet number 1309. In early February, Laro Photography hosted a series of charters that saw 1309 backdated and re-lettered to her 1950s era appearance, when she was a coal-hauling workhorse for her former boss, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. The event featured 1309 pulling a string of 10 freight cars along the former Western Maryland Railway main line between Cumberland and Frostburg, Maryland, performing numerous photo run-bys at some of the most scenic locations on this classic stretch of mountain rail. The dramatic landscapes formed by the Allegheny Mountains heavily resembled the terrain in which 1309 once labored through on the C&O, and with a little imagination, the year could have easily been 1953. Here we see a few highlights from these trips. February also brought about a sight that many had longed to become a reality for over a decade, and one of the most prolific steam stories of 2023, as steam finally returned to the legendary East Broad Top Railroad. Located in Rock Hill Furnace, Pennsylvania, a town nestled in the heart of coal country in the Aughwick Valley, the Narrow Gauge Railroad is considered by rail fans and historians alike as one of America's national treasures that perfectly showcases what life was like during our nation's second industrial revolution. On February 1st, after 12 long years without steam, Mikado number 16 ran under her own power for the first time since the end of common carrier service on the EBT in 1956, and her return to steam was a thrilling sight that many thought had been lost to the history books. Over President's Day weekend, 16 pulled her first revenue trains at the East Broad Top's annual Winter Spectacular, traveling along the 5-mile section of track between Rock Hill Furnace and Colgate Grove, on both regular passenger trains and a recreated freight train on the mornings of both days. In addition, the EBT's iconic Doodlebug railcar M1 was seen in operation, along with the Red Arrow Line's Liberty Liner making its annual appearance at the neighboring Rock Hill Trolley Museum. It was a fantastic and historic weekend that ushered in the reign of steam on the East Broad Top once again. April found former Central Railroad of New Jersey number 113 leading a trio of Easter excursions on the Reading and Northern Railroad's Minersville branch, between Minersville and Cressona, Pennsylvania. The bulky 060 celebrated her 100th birthday in 2023, and she put on a splendid show rocking through the wooded forests that dominate the old Reading Company branch line. 113 is showcased beautifully as she passes through the rock cut at Glenworth. May took us to the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia and the Cass Scenic Railroad for the annual Rail Heritage Weekend. 2023 marked a milestone year for Cass, as it was the 60th anniversary of tourist operations. It also brought about the debut of a project over 30 years and nearly a decade's worth of hard work in the making. For the first time since 1985, trains traversed the former Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad's Greenbrier Division from Cass to Durbin, West Virginia. The first day of the event featured Shay locomotives numbers 5 and 11 traveling from Cass to Durbin and return, performing run-bys at some very scenic locations along the Greenbrier River. The day was an exciting and momentous one that officially revived the Greenbrier line. On the second day, both Shays headed up the mountain to Whitaker, tackling the steep 9.5% grades of the old Maurer Lumber Company line up Cass Hill. Let's take a look at some scenes from this history-making special. Over Father's Day weekend in June, the Northern Central Railway in Pennsylvania celebrated their 10th anniversary of operations. Dubbed the Ages of the Railroad event, the celebration featured the operation of Northern Central's own replica 440 number 17, as well as a special guest appearance by the Grambling Locomotive Works Jetto Coal Company 040T number 85. Both locomotives were used on special excursions north from New Freedom to Glen Rock and Hanover Junction, capping off the weekend with an exciting, if not unusual, doubleheader. It was a momentous occasion that proved a fitting tribute to the first decade of this truly one-of-a-kind operation. Mid-July saw Timeless Rail Expeditions hosting a photo charter on the Arcade and Attica Railroad in western New York State. The event starred two of the railroad's General Electric center cab diesel locomotives, 65-tonner number 112 and 80-tonner number 113, which are a vital piece of the A&A's history that make the short line all the more unique. Since 1941, freight duties of the railroad have been handled by these small, yet resilient locomotives. As freight loads continue to increase, however, the locomotives have slowly begun to show more and more wear. As a result, Alco RS3M number 406 was purchased from the Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad in order to handle the heavy tonnage, and has since become Arcade and Attica number 114. The introduction of a larger locomotive resulted in the center cabs bowing out from freight service. The charter served as a fitting conclusion to the era of the center cabs on the A&A, with both engines putting on a fabulous show over the entire line between Arcade and North Java, New York. The locomotives were seen in pusher service, double heading, and side by side on both freight trains and mixed trains. We had a grand time at this event and look forward to returning to the arcade in Attica soon for the return of steam. The day after the Arcade and Attica charter, we headed down to the Wilmington and Western Railroad in the beautiful Red Clay Valley of northern Delaware. The star of the show was the railroad's 060 number 58, which put out a fabulous performance with her 3-car passenger consist as she made easy work working up the winding grades of this scenic branch line. We chased 58 over the entire line between Greenbank and Hockessin, Delaware, and she provided plenty of great stack talk on Hockessin Hill. On the final weekend of July, we traveled to the Midwest to cover the Indiana Rail Experience's first ever Railroad Open House. Hosted by the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, the event was staged at the Indiana Northeastern Railroad's maintenance facility in Hudson, Indiana. 4 different steam locomotives were featured in the festivities, including the Little River Railroad's 040T No. 1 and 462 No. 110, Jeddo Coal Company No. 85, and of course, Nickel Plate Road S2 Berkshire No. 765. The event featured a neat mixture of exciting events and excursions, including round trips to Hamilton, Indiana with No. 110 and to Steubenville with No. 1. The 765 led the final excursions of each day to South Milford, Indiana, and return. At Hudson, No. 85 was on hand for the highly popular Hands on the Throttle sessions, giving the general public a rare opportunity to operate a live steam locomotive. Here are some highlights from the excursion runs. Throughout the summer of 2023, Reading and Northern T1 number 2102 was seen on the head end of 3 Iron Horse Rambles excursions in Pennsylvania over the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad, in her second straight year back on the high iron. A nod to the famous trips of the same name operated by the Reading Company in the early 1960s, the Rambles covered the R&N's Reading division from Reading Outer Station to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and return, giving riders a chance to spend a full day riding behind one of the nation's most impressive steam locomotives, with her massive size and thundering exhaust. The O2 had new piston rings installed over the previous winter, giving her an even sharper and more powerful sound. As a result, she put on a stunning show as she climbed the nearly 1.5% grades of Hawks and Hometown Hill with her long and heavy consists. We shot all 3 of 2102's summer excursions in July, August, and September, featuring plenty of great scenes of her in action at iconic locations along the old Reading and C&J main lines, as well as spots that are definitely off the beaten path. The Reading and Northern has always been a favorite of ours to shoot, and here are just some of the many great scenes we captured of 2102 on the Rambles. One of the highlights of the East Broad Tops excursion season is the Friends of the EBT's annual fall reunion, held each year on Columbus Day weekend in October. We made a brief appearance at this event and saw number 16 pulling the regular excursion trains, along with the M1 and EBT inspection car M3 also giving rides throughout the day. It's a great day for a train ride as the leaves begin to reveal their autumn hues. The East Broad Top has always been highly renowned in the realm of historical significance and steam railroad preservation. The entire 33-mile right-of-way from Mount Union to Robertsdale, as well as the entirety of the yard and shop facilities at Rock Hill Furnace, remains intact, and everything from locomotives, rolling stock, bridges, tunnels, sidings, stations, and many other historic structures still reside in the exact state in which they were left when the railroad closed its doors in 1956. With so many important pieces of the railroad miraculously still here in the 21st century, the EBT is naturally a perfect place to recreate the past in the form of photo freight charters. We attended 2 such events in 2023, with the first held in late April by Laro Photography, and the second in mid-November by Dynamo Productions. Both events featured number 16 hauling period mixed trains, featuring a string of the railroad's classic narrow gauge coal hoppers, along with a wooden boxcar, passenger coaches, and a caboose. Adding great nostalgic flavor to both events were stage actors in period clothing, co-starring alongside a variety of 1940s and 50s era automobiles. Scenes in both the spring with budding green leaves on the trees, as well as the late fall with fading foliage added great contrast to both charters. Let's see a few scenes from both, and witness narrow gauge railroading as it truly was. The fall of 2023 found a new series of adventures beginning for Norfolk and Western Class J 484 number 611, as the beautiful streamlined thoroughbred was seen pulling mainline steam excursions in her home state of Virginia for the first time in several years. Operating over the Buckingham Branch Railroad as the Shenandoah Valley Limited, the excursions traveled on the former Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad's Mountain Subdivision, over a 30-mile distance between Goshen and Stanton, Virginia. The scenery of the Shenandoah Valley during the fall is stunning indeed, with colorful foliage dotting tall mountains that dwarf the hilly countrysides and lush meadows of this scenic and historic region of the Old Dominion. We shot 611 over the course of 2 different days that featured several fantastic scenes of her speeding down the main as she headed east for Stanton. The toughest obstacle for 611 on these trips came in the form of the 1.5% grades of North Mountain, and the Tuscan-trimmed royalty of the rails made easy work of the climb, putting on a most impressive show as she conquered the summit. In mid-October, after an absence of 5 years, the Big Banana Railfan finally returned to the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, spending nearly a week capturing the sheer majesty, emotion, and power that only the Rio Grande narrow gauge railroads can provide. Hearing the whistles echo off the mountainside sends intense chills, bringing about a sense of adventure in a territory of railroads that has a dreamlike sense of beauty surrounding it. The big event of our Rio Grande adventure was the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad's 2023 Fall Photographers Special, which celebrated the 100th anniversary of the railroad's K-28 class locomotives. The Durango and Silverton is certainly one of the world's greatest train rides, taking passengers on a 45-mile journey past snow-capped 12,000-foot mountain peaks, through jagged rock formations perched along sheer granite mantles, and along the rushing waters of the Animas River. The Fall Photographers Special was a legendary 2-day event that showcased a sight that had not been seen on the Silverton branch since the 1950s. On the first day, locomotive number 473 led a 14-car mixed freight and passenger train from Durango to Silverton, Colorado, with sister engine number 476 acting as a mid-train helper, a sight commonly seen on the steep grades of Cumbres Pass, but even in the steam days was a rarity on the Silverton branch. After an overnight stay in Silverton, the next day found the consist split, with 476 leading a freight train and 473 on a passenger train. On both days, some grandiose photo locations were in store, offering perfect views of the train with the golden aspen-dotted San Juan Mountains and the clear waters of the Animas River as a stunning backdrop, capping off with more mid-train helper run-bys on the world-famous High Line. As a grand finale, 473 and 476 were staged at the Durango Depot with sister number 478, which will soon be restored to service. K-37 number 493 also made several appearances on the regularly scheduled passenger train, making several meets with the special on both days. Here is a mere fraction of the many spectacular scenes we recorded in the gorgeous San Juan mountain scenery. The remainder of our Colorado Narrow Gauge Odyssey was spent shooting the other preserved portion of the Rio Grande Narrow Gauge, the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. Located in Chama, New Mexico, and straddling the Colorado-New Mexico state line for 64 miles to Antonito, Colorado, the Cumbres and Toltec is the highest and longest narrow gauge railroad in North America, reaching Cumbres Pass at 10,015 feet. It also features some of the world's best scenery, keeping an old world spirit in a place where the 21st century seems non-existent, and time stands still with the pure and untouched mountain scenery. We spent 3 days shooting the C&TS, covering the western portion of the railroad between Chama and Los Pinos, Colorado. We captured a variety of trains with 4 different locomotives fighting up the steep 4% grade to Cumbres. The fall colors had reached their peak a bit later than usual, giving us bright golden aspen trees dotting mammoth mountains. One day even found a double-header with C18-280 number 315 on the point, a true rarity in itself. On this day, the train ran at the exact same time as an even rarer annular eclipse, which was putting on a show of its own in the clear Rocky Mountain autumn sky. And witnessing both simultaneously was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. In addition to 315, we also saw 3 of the railroad's own locomotives, including K27 number 463 and K36's numbers 484 and 488. Images cannot describe the glory and captivation that the Cumbres and Toltec emits. It's an atmosphere that is simply the best that the Old West can provide, unmatched by anything else on Earth. final outing of 2023, we ended the year right where we began it, as we returned to the Western Maryland to chase 1309 on the Polar Express excursions departing out of Frostburg. Ferrying up the mountain from Cumberland each day, these trips traveled about 8 miles east of Frostburg to the North Pole setup, and the equipment moves when combined with the Polar Express runs themselves gave us a chance to hike into some harder to access photo locations along the old Western Maryland Railway main line. We see 1309 working hard on the steep mountain grades as she fights around the sharp curves and crosses over a ravine on the climb to Frostburg. Whistles echo off the canyon walls as 476 and 473 perform their last run-bys of the day at the Horseshoe Curve on the High Line, with the Animas River flowing steadily 400 feet below. As we wrap up our look back at this extraordinary year, we'd like to give a special thanks to all of our subscribers and supporters for continuing to join us on our never-ending quest in search of steam. We'd also like to express our sincerest thanks for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers, a monumental milestone that finally happened after 6 years on YouTube. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you for watching in 2023, and we look forward to what awaits on the horizon in 2024 and beyond.